Most people will never become rich, not because they weren't born into wealth, not because the system is rigged, not because they lacked a lucky break or an inheritance or a perfect economy. No. The reason most never become rich is much quieter, much smaller, and far more dangerous. It's a whisper, a hesitation, a belief hidden so deep inside their bones that they mistake it for truth. It sounds like this. Maybe this is just how life is. Maybe people like me don't get to have that. Maybe rich just isn't meant for me. That's not humility. That's defeat in disguise. It's a poverty of thought. And if you want to become rich, truly rich, not just with money, but with time, with freedom, with purpose, with the power to choose your days, then that poison has to go. You cannot build wealth with the bricks of limitation. You must begin again, not with a bank account, but with the mind. Every fortune began in the unseen. Before Rockefeller ever held a dollar, he held a vision. Before Carnegie ever forged steel, he forged belief. Before Disney ever bought land in Orlando, he bought into the idea that dreams were not just illusions, they were blueprints. But the average person, they skip this step. They rush past the roots and wonder why the tree never grows. They chase tactics, strategies. They want the how without the who. They want the result without the reason. They ask, "What should I do?" but never ask, "Who must I become?" And that is where they fall. Riches, real riches, demand reinvention, not of the world, but of the self. The poor mind believes wealth is an event. The rich mind understands it is a process, because there's a difference between getting rich and becoming rich. One is a transaction, the other is a transformation. You cannot hold riches for long with a mind still built for survival. You cannot sustain abundance if you think like a struggler. Wealth is not just about accumulation, it's about alignment. Alignment between who you are and what you believe you deserve. So ask yourself, brutally, honestly, do you believe you deserve to be rich? Not just wish for it, not fantasize about it, but believe, deeply. Conviction in your chest, fire in your belly. The kind of belief that wakes you up at 5 a.m. Not because you have to, but because you can't wait to meet your future. Most don't. Most never even ask that question. They're too busy following the script they were handed at birth. Go to school, get good grades, get a job, retire at 65, die slowly. No one questions the playbook, because questioning it feels like betrayal. But you must betray the ordinary to become extraordinary. You must abandon the myths. That security is safer than risk. That comfort is more noble than freedom. That it's selfish to want more. No, what's selfish is wasting the one life you've been given because you were afraid to stand out. You weren't born to pay bills and keep quiet. You weren't born to just get by. You were born to rise. But to rise, you must let go of the anchors. And the first anchor is your environment. Show me your closest 5 friends, and I will show you your financial ceiling. If they think small, you'll shrink. If they fear growth, you'll stay the same. If they mock ambition, you'll bury yours. You can't become rich while clinging to the approval of people committed to mediocrity. You have to choose legacy or loyalty to the past. Andrew Carnegie once said, "The man who acquires the ability to take full possession of his own mind may take possession of anything else to which he is justly entitled." That's the key. Possession of your own mind. Not the opinions of others. Not the headlines. Not the economy. Not your family history. But your own mind. Because once you own that, you can own anything. Money is not the master. You are. And until you believe that, it will run from you. Now, let's talk clarity. Most people don't know what they really want. They say, "I want to be rich," but they don't define it. They say, "I want freedom," but they don't plan for it. They say, "I want success," but they can't even tell you what success looks like. And if you can't define it, you can't demand it. You cannot hit a target you can't see. The rich think in specifics. The poor think in generalities: specific income, specific lifestyle, specific deadlines, specific skills, specific partnerships. Write this down and never forget it. Ambiguity is the enemy of wealth. Clarity is a magnet. When your vision is sharp, your actions become simple, your path lights up, people appear, resources emerge, the chaos starts to organize itself around your clarity, but you must be willing to choose. And here's the truth: most never become rich because they never choose. They dabble, they flirt, they tiptoe, they multitask, they keep options open. But wealth rewards the decisive, not the curious, not the hesitant, the committed. Those who burn the ships, those who say, "This is who I am, this is what I'm building, this is the life I will die for." Because only when you choose with power can you act with force. And action, that's the next step. But not just any action, not frantic motion, not busy work. I'm talking about disciplined, focused, intentional action, the kind of action that compounds. Because money doesn't come to the man who works the hardest. It comes to the man who thinks the clearest, chooses the boldest, and acts the most consistently. And that brings us to a brutal truth. Consistency is the most undervalued superpower of the modern age. It's not sexy. It doesn't go viral. It doesn't get applause. But it builds empires in silence. You see, the average person moves like a wave. High motivation one day, nothing the next. They start things, many things. A business idea here, a goal there, but they finish nothing. They think discipline is a prison. But the rich, the truly wealthy, they know that discipline is freedom. The structure creates space. The repetition creates mastery. And mastery prints money. Look at the greats. Henry Ford didn't create the automobile. He created the system that could scale the automobile. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb once. He failed thousands of times and got back up every single time because the work, the boring, daily, unglamorous work, was sacred. While others searched for shortcuts, they were sharpening the axe. While others chased excitement, they embraced the grind. Because here's the truth: you do not rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the level of your standards. And if your standards say, "I'll do it when I feel like it," you've already lost. Riches do not bend to feelings. They respond to standards, to repetition, to persistence without applause. Ask any self-made millionaire. It wasn't one lucky deal. It wasn't one viral moment. It was year after year of invisible effort, reading when others watched, investing when others spent, learning when others partied. The world rewards those who are willing to be temporarily misunderstood in order to be permanently free. But to walk that path, you need more than habits. You need vision. Vision is what pulls you through the storms. It is what lets you bleed for something greater than survival. It is what gives meaning to the late nights, the setbacks, the failures. And that vision cannot be borrowed. It cannot be copied from someone else's Instagram bio or LinkedIn headline. It must be yours. Something so deeply embedded in your bones that quitting becomes more painful than pushing forward. So what do you see when you close your eyes? Is it just a number in your bank account? That's not enough. Is it a house, a car, a lifestyle? That's a starting point, not a destination. Your vision must include not just what you want, but who you become in the process. Because the goal isn't just to get rich, it's to grow rich, to evolve, to transcend, to build a life that feels like yours, crafted, designed, owned. And that requires one thing that most people never develop: emotional discipline. You will not get rich if your emotions control you. You will not make wise investments if you panic every time the market dips. You will not build a business if you crumble at rejection. You will not lead others if you cannot first lead yourself. Self-mastery is wealth. And emotional discipline, the ability to feel fear and act anyway, to feel doubt and move anyway, to feel exhausted and show up anyway. That is the foundation of every fortune. Because there will be days where nothing goes right. There will be months where the bank account is low. People will laugh at your ideas. You will feel alone. You will feel crazy. And that's the price. Not because wealth is cruel, but because greatness demands proof. It asks, are you serious? Will you keep showing up when the crowd disappears? Will you plant seeds even when the soil is dry? Most won't. Most fold. Most retreat to comfort. They say, it's too hard. And they're right. It is hard. But you know what's harder? Regret. Looking back at your life and realizing you never tried for real. You played it safe. You chose approval over power. You chose routine over reinvention. Don't let that be your story. Because the moment you truly commit, not dabble, not test, but commit, you begin to move differently. Life begins to bend. The air gets thicker. The silence gets sacred. You begin to attract what you once chased. Opportunities begin to whisper instead of scream. And people can feel it, your certainty, your direction. But you must guard that flame. You must guard your mind like a temple. Feed it truth. Feed it books. Feed it mentors. Study the patterns of those who built empires from nothing. Study Lincoln's grit. Study Jobs' obsession. Study Rohn's clarity. Study Disney's madness. Don't envy them. Embody them. Understand this. Your success is not a lottery ticket. It's a ladder. And every rung is a new identity. Every rung requires the death of your old self. To rise, something must die. Your laziness, your victimhood, your need to be liked, your addiction to distraction. This is the spiritual tax of wealth, the shedding, the pruning, the purification, and most, they avoid it. They think they can skip the inner work and still cash the outer rewards. But life doesn't work like that. Money is a magnifier. It amplifies who you already are. If you're weak, it will expose your weakness. If you're undisciplined, it will fuel your chaos. If you're hollow, it will echo your emptiness. But if you're grounded, clear, driven, grateful, it will elevate everything. So the real question is not, how do I get rich? It's, who must I become so that wealth becomes inevitable? And that is a question worth your life. So then, who must you become? The world will tell you, a hustler, a grinder, a nonstop machine. But hear me clearly. You don't need to burn out to light your future. You need to become strategic, intentional, wise. You must become someone who understands leverage. Because the rich don't work harder. They work differently. They build systems. They master skills that pay them forever. They understand that time is the most valuable currency on earth, and they spend it accordingly. They don't trade hours for dollars. They trade value for freedom. They ask better questions. How can I create something once that pays me for years? How can I solve a problem at scale? How can I build a machine that works when I sleep? This is how wealth is built. Not by effort alone, but by leverage. But you can't access leverage if your mind is trapped in survival. You have to elevate your thinking. You have to stop saying, I can't afford it, and start asking, how can I afford it? You have to stop thinking in terms of cost and start thinking in terms of investment. Your energy is an investment. Your time is an investment. Your attention is an investment. And if you spend all three scrolling, gossiping, reacting, then don't be surprised when your life looks exactly like everyone else's. The rich invest before they spend. They build before they consume. They plant before they harvest. And they play the long game. They understand that real wealth is not built in a year. It's built in decades. It's built in cycles. It's built through patience, strategy, and relentless adaptation. And that word, adaptation, that's where most people lose the game. Because the path to riches is never a straight line. You'll start a business that fails. You'll make investments that flop. You'll trust people who disappoint you. You'll try plans that break apart. But adaptation is wealth. The ability to pivot, adjust, evolve, that is your superpower. Charles Darwin didn't say the strongest survive. He said the most adaptable survive. And this is true in money, in mindset, in life. The economy will change. Technology will change. Trends will change. You must stay sharp, stay learning, stay humble enough to evolve. Because what made you rich once go woo won't keep you rich forever. Kodak died because they clung to the past. Blockbuster died because they laughed at Netflix. Thousands of millionaires have gone bankrupt because they got lazy, arrogant, entitled. They forgot the principle. Wealth is rented, and rent is due every day. So never stop learning. This is the next key most miss. Wealth belongs to the learners, not the know-it-alls, not the ego-driven, the students, the ones who read, listen, ask, apply. Because every new skill is a new stream. Every new idea is a seed. Every mentor you study is a decade collapsed into a day. And we are in the most abundant time in history. Knowledge is everywhere. Podcasts, books, courses, mentorship, tools. Yet most use the internet to distract, not to grow. They scroll instead of study. They argue instead of apply. They laugh at memes while others build empires. You don't need $1 million education to become a millionaire. You need $1 million dedication to growth, to mastery, to curiosity. Read about money. Study how the rich think. Understand markets, taxes, assets. Learn sales. Learn leadership. Learn communication. These are the weapons of the wealthy. And more than anything, learn yourself. Because the deeper you know your own psychology, your triggers, your blind spots, your patterns, the more powerful you become. Self-awareness is not fluffy. It's not just for journaling. It is the foundation of decision-making, negotiation, relationships, leadership. And the wealthy, the ones who last, they study themselves like a craft. Because when you know yourself, you become unshakable. No economy can break you. No loss can destroy you. No opinion can define you. That's when you stop chasing riches and start attracting them. Because people feel your clarity. They feel your certainty. They feel your momentum. And the world makes room for those who move with purpose. You become magnetic, not by shouting, but by walking in quiet alignment with who you are and what you were born to do. But there's one final piece. The part most overlooked in the pursuit of wealth. Gratitude. Gratitude is not weakness. It's not softness. It's not passive. Gratitude is power. Because it grounds you. It expands your capacity to receive. It multiplies what you already have. When you operate from lack, you push abundance away. When you operate from gratitude, you draw it near. You say, "Thank you," before the breakthrough. You say, "I am ready," even when the evidence is missing. You say, "This is enough," while still aiming for more. Because gratitude is not the enemy of ambition. It is the fuel. It lets you run toward the future without spitting on the present. It keeps your heart full while your hands build. It makes you rich now, before the money ever comes. And when the money does come, it won't own you, because you'll know you were already full, you were already enough. And that's the paradox. The ones who become rich are the ones who never needed to be. They were already alive, awake, driven by vision, not validation, action, not applause. They didn't wait for the world to change, they changed themselves. And that is how you become rich. So now, the question stands before you, not as a whisper, but as a roar. Will you be like most? Will you repeat the story handed down to you? The one of limitation, hesitation, quiet desperation wrapped in polite excuses? Will you chase comfort until your ambition dies in the waiting room of someday? Or will you break the cycle? Will you be the one who rewrites the family name, not with arrogance, but with courage? Will you be the one who decides that it ends here, the fear, the lack, the survival mindset, and that it begins here too, the wealth, the purpose, the power? Understand this. The gates are not locked. The path is not hidden. But the price is real. You will have to leave behind your old self. You will have to wake up when no one's watching. You will have to sacrifice nights, parties, indulgence, and ease. You will have to stand alone when others walk away. You will have to believe when the evidence doesn't show up yet. You will have to act when everything inside you screams to stay still. But if you do, if you persist, if you choose this path not once, but every day, again and again, despite the noise, despite the odds, then hear me now. You will rise. You will break through. You will see what most never see. A life of your design. A mind without limits. A bank account that reflects the fire inside your spirit. A legacy that echoes long after you're gone. And when they ask how you did it, how you went from the shadows to the summit, you won't say, I got lucky. You'll say, I made a decision. I took full possession of my mind. I rewired my belief. I moved with discipline. I grew with purpose. I became a magnet. And I never let go of the vision. You'll say, I refused to live like most. And because of that, I became more than rich. I became free. So the final question is not, how do I become rich? The final question is, are you ready to never be average again? Because if you are, then start today. Burn the excuses, build the habits, feed the vision, elevate your circle, guard your energy, master your mind, study the greats, and every single day, execute like your future depends on it, because it does. Now, rise and become.